So here is a super simple macrame wall hanging that anyone can do. So what you want to do is pick up a plunger at Dollar Tree. Now, this next step is optional. I wanted to cut off the little ridge sections. I just used my saw to cut off that edge, but you don't have to do that. You could cover it up with the twine as well. Next, I'm going to use some basic white yarn that I got at Michael's, but the last time I was at Dollar Tree, they had yarn, and this was my first time seeing it. So if you're lucky, you may be able to find some yarn at Dollar Tree. I know that they had white and a bunch of different other colors. I used 2 spools of yarn in order to do this entire wall hanging. So what I did was I just took 1 piece of yarn, wrapped it around the edge, tied it in place, and then I made a hanger on both sides, wrapped it around, tied it so it was secure so I could hang it up. Now, whenever you're doing a wall hanging, you want to make your pieces longer than what you think, because once you start either tying knots or doing different things to it, it's going to make your yarn a lot shorter. So I'm using a piece of wood that's about 2 feet long. I started wrapping the yarn around this wood about 14 times. Then when I got a bundle done, I took it off the wood and I cut one of the edges. And I repeated this for all of my bundles. Once I had all my bundles created, I put them over on top of my wood dowel rod. Now here's where the super easy part comes in. I got some clear rubber bands from Dollar Tree. These are just in the hair section. You can use them on like little kids' hair. Once I put the yarn over, I took a rubber band and tied it at the top. And I did that with all of my yarn bundles that I put on. Next, I'm going to do another rubber band about 1 inch down all the way across. So I wanted to create a V pattern. So in order to do that, all I did was I left out one of the yarn hangings on either side every time I went down, so that it gradually created my V shape until I was only left with 1 rubber band. I promise this was totally easy to create. To finish it off, you want to cut the edges. Now, sometimes I will cut at a V shape, but I figured since it's already doing a V shape with my rubber bands, I wanted to cut it straight across, which is a little bit harder. So I just did my very best to try to smooth the yarn out, and then I cut it straight across. And as you can see, I think it looks adorable, especially here on my backdrop. So when I was on McGee & Co.'s website, I found this next wall art piece, and it was so incredibly overpriced, but honestly so simple and something I knew that I could recreate. This wall art was over $3,000, so I thought, let's go ahead and recreate it. I found a pack of canvases at Five Below that I picked up for $5. Now for this project, you're just going to need some macrame cord and some nautical rope. I'm gonna link both of the ones that I use on a regular basis in the description box below. Now on each of my canvas, I marked where I wanted the center strip to be on both of the canvases. I started with one of my yarns and I hot glued it to the back, and then I wrapped it around, hot glued it to the other side where I'd measured, and then I continued to wrap it around, hot gluing it periodically. Now some of my tips whenever you're wrapping yarn or cord around a canvas, you want to try to keep the yarn or twine as close as you can. It just gives it much more of a high-end look and it looks a lot more seamless. Now for this project, you want to try to keep it as level as possible. That's just going to help you when you get to the ends. So I wrapped the cord around the middle, and then once I got to my other lines that I had marked off, I just hot glued it in place and cut off the excess. Now I'm going to take my other rope and hot glue that to the edge where I just stopped on my center portion, and I'm going to wrap that, hot gluing it until I get to the very end. Now, once you get to the end, you want to start adding in more hot glue just so that it gives it more longevity. It's going to hold in place when it's hanging on your wall. And I'm going to wrap it around, also making sure to completely cover your canvas. You want to make sure your canvas is completely covered, and then you can hot glue the excess onto the back. Once I do one side, I'm going to flip and do the other side. Now, I was thinking this project was actually going to take a while, but it went considerably faster than I thought. So if you're hesitant to try it, it really wasn't that long to create. Now you're going to repeat these steps on your second canvas, but you're just going to switch the materials. So you're going to start with your macrame, putting that on in the middle. And then for your edges, you can add on your nautical rope. You're going to follow the same tips by making sure you add it really close together and covering the canvas on either of the edges. I really love this grouping of two. It adds so much texture to my walls. Next, we're gonna be making a hanging planter. I love the way hanging planters look. They're great for like a corner of your office. You could also put them in your kitchen, and bathrooms are great for these as well, because sometimes bathrooms are small and you don't have a lot of room to decorate. So you could put one of these kind of maybe over like in your toilet area. That's a great option for these as well. So you're gonna take any small container. This is one I actually picked up at the thrift store, and I'm gonna spray it with 2 coats of a flat black spray paint. Now to create the hanging portion of my planter, I wanted to use some faux leather. I wasn't able to find any at Dollar Tree, and I went online and found this whole pack of faux leather on Amazon that I probably could use for a ton of projects for super inexpensive. I'll link to it down in the description box for you guys if you want to check it out. I'm going to use this medium faux leather color. So I'm going to start by cutting out a square that's going to fit up nicely around my planter. Next, I wanted to create holes on the edges of the square that I cut out. So I'm just going to use my scissors and my wire cutters to cut a little hole. Now I don't want it to be too big because I'm actually trying to put in some nautical rope in there, and if it's too big, the nautical rope's just going to pull through. So I did kind of a smaller hole. Next, I'm going to be using my nautical rope. This again, I'll link for you guys. You guys know I use this all the time, but I'm going to cut off a long strip. I'm actually going to make 4 strips to use for this project. I'm gonna pull the nautical rope through. The faux leather I wanna show is actually gonna be placed on the bottom. Once I pull the rope through, I'm gonna tie it in a knot on the bottom. I'm gonna repeat this with all 3 of my other sides. Now, once I get all the rope through, I'm going to put my planter in the middle. I'm gonna cut off any extra string down at the bottom of my knots. And the plant that I'm gonna be using is one that I love from IKEA. It's this big hanging plant. It's usually out this time of year, but it's around $5, $6. It's so great, you guys. I have several of these. If you have an IKEA, I would definitely pick it up. So I'm gonna put that plant in the middle. I'm gonna pull up on my planter just to kind of see how it looks. I'm gonna tie those together. And here's how this planter looks hanging up. I just think it's adorable. Hey guys, I'm Liz and you're watching my second DIY channel where I post daily DIY videos. You may be familiar with my main channel, Liz Fenwick DIY, but I'm glad that you found me over here on my second channel. Make sure that you're subscribed so you just get notified every day when I post our daily DIY video.